When it comes to the matter of faith, I believe in a new religious cult that I made called God of Obvious Good and Evil. Let me repeat that again. God of Obvious Good and Evil. The point of this religion is to do obvious good things, or try to do obvious good things, and avoid obvious evil. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Nothing gets added, nothing gets detracted or taken away from it. That's all, really. And some try to argue that that morality has no absolution, and I don't fully agree with that, because there are some things in nature that has a absolution in a sense. For example, murdering your own, that's pretty bad. You need to trust each other. There are some sort of criminals and such that gets jail and such, and there's a law system for that. But the point is that there is some stuff that is very horrible on an objective level, and a lot of people will agree that that's an obvious evil. So I don't agree that that morality is subjective. Now, taste can be subjective. Like, I can like a video game that some others may not like, or some may like a hobby that others may not like. But there are some common ground where people legit see the problem with it. At least on a consensus level. If there is this one fraction that may be more weird about it, that's another thing. But people in general do agree that that such thing is pretty bad. So I think morality has an objective level on some common ground. So that's what this religious cult, because it's not big yet. I made it myself, because I'm gonna make an argument to why Abrahamic religions are not true. The reason is Abrahamic religions have, if you look at the history of it, has mostly been made out of spiteful means, not so much truthful. The truth is more to sell an idea that that this is the way to go, in a sense. But if you look at how it was made, I can give some historical reasons. The reason why Judaism was made, in a sense, was because a lot of war cultures in Middle East back then pretty much swept over the vassal state of Egypt, which was Canaan at the time. That place later became Israel, the culture of Israel. The point is, when the Assyrians did the last thing, though, and I think that was really what led to this culture of monotheism in Israel. When Cyrus the Great conquered Assyrians, he basically let the Jews go and build the temple, and that's when monotheism was established, basically. So most scholars do agree that monotheism didn't come to exist before 600 BC. And that's when people argue that the 5 books of Moses was made, in a sense. And that before that it was a polytheistic culture that was ruling over that area. And there's also argument that Joshua conquest is also not really true, or in historical sense. I saw a documentary on it, and it was dated to destructions that took thousands of years over each other, over places that was supposedly destroyed in biblical accounts. So historically, Canaan was basically a vassal state of Egypt, and that's really what is the real truth of it, in a sense. So they probably made the story of Moses to kind of be something that they are not. So you are like hating on Egyptians, and that may explain the 10 curses that God laid on Egypt. Because in order to be something that you don't want to be, you have to deny yourself to be a part of that culture. And that may be why Moses' story and Exodus and wandering in the desert was written in a sense. So it's not so much historical truth, but it's more for them it's more like a religious truth. So that's why the story was made in a sense. But you see the point though. They wrote, they pretty much made this religious culture because they had a very spiteful view of outsiders who they deemed as evil, the influence that they had. Only one thing that I think was good that they got rid of in terms of Christianity and Islam is human sacrifices. That may be kind of thing that I don't miss so. But overall though, much of the culture of that spawned from Abrahamic religions, from Judaism, like Christianity and Islam, much of it has more of a spiteful purpose to it. The reason Christianity came was because Judaism kind of failed in a sense, because it was supposed to be the chosen religion to rule mankind, and everyone should serve the house of Israel in a sense. Problem is when the Romans kind of sacked the temple, it kind of failed in a sense. So we kind of had no choice but to have a more humble religious culture, and Christianity came to kind of influence the world. But still, you kind of hated the culture that was the evil that they considered. So that's how Christianity came as a salvation religion in a sense. And when it got influence in the Roman world, then it kind of got really big in a sense. And I guess that's why Islam, which was more of a retcon of Abrahamic religions, that Judaism and Christianity has been corrupted in a sense. And that's when it got decided. And it was probably made because if you want to keep some certain culture in check and not be influenced by Hellenistic culture or Roman culture, then having a religious culture to challenge that is kind of useful, don't you think? So that's what I mean is they just studying it and understanding it, they do come across more of as spitefully made and not so much truthful made. So that's why I don't really believe in them. So that's why I'm more of a believer in this religious cult that I made. I think people have like idea that if you have the word cult, then it's kind of dangerous. It's kind of the screwy guy who gonna gets followers to do stuff. It's an idea that I have. I'm not a cult follower or a leader. It's just to spread the word in a sense, just so you don't get any wrong idea that I'm gonna go with a bunch of mob group to do kind of chaos anywhere. So that's not the idea. The point is just to spread the word that I believe in them, in the nature of, in terms of understanding our nature of what makes us good and what makes us evil, or why evil nature exists and why good nature exists. So that's why I believe in this new religious cult that I made of a God of obvious good and evil. And that's why I think there is that the point of life is to try to do the obvious good, and that's not easy for everyone, but I think that's the purpose of life in a sense. And that's really religion in a sense, because it's not supposed to explain on a practical scientific level of how do we exist, how do we live. That's more like the science. Religion is was more made in historical terms as why do we do this? What's the purpose of life? Like that's meant by religious mentality to explain that. And that's why, in terms of the real dogmatic truth, the ultimate real truth, I think this religious cult that I made, God of obvious good and evil, I think that's the real truth. If you don't agree, that's fine. Feel free to agree or disagree in the comment sections. Let me know what you think. So thanks and bye.